Immigration Act since 2014. The Immigration Act in 2014 and 2016 both aimed to reduce immigration. They both failed. Why on earth should GB News viewers think you're going to succeed? And why not give us a promise right now? Why give us a fixed target right now, not a promise, so we can judge you on success? The Tories at least did that, but they failed.
Well, look, the difference here, this is the most comprehensive plan that has been put forward. It's been forward to end the Tory sort of one open borders experiment that we have had. You're right about that. And it looks at all routes and it's comprehensive. And it does the hard yards of linking skills and business.
Again, Rishi Sunak was clobbering you over the head with that £2,000 tax line. It took you almost half an hour to call it garbage. What on earth took...
Keir Starmer just sat down for what should have been a polished BBC interview, but it didn't go as planned. In fact, just one sentence might have wrecked the whole thing. A bold claim, a suspicious lack of evidence, and now people are asking if the Labour leader just got caught lying straight to the public again. This wasn't just awkward, it raised serious questions. And when you hear what he actually said, you'll understand why this moment is blowing up. Let's break it down.
It is totally unacceptable that anybody is getting on a small boat and crossing the Channel to the United Kingdom. The last government lost control of the borders. I'm determined that we'll retake control of the borders. That means that we've got to have a concerted effort to smash the gangs that are running this vile trade. We've carried out in the last few months many high-profile arrests across different parts of the world, working with partners like Iraq that haven't been possible in the past, seized a lot of assets, had returns agreement, maximum number of returns. But what we've done in our joint work with Albania is shown that by working with other countries, this morning you saw law enforcement from Albania alongside law enforcement in the UK, we've driven down those numbers. I want to see more of that because I'm absolutely determined that we're going to clear up the mess that we've been left and make sure that we get the control that we need of our borders.
During the interview, Starmer tried to sound firm on immigration. He looked right into the camera and said his government had already made high-profile arrests of smuggling gangs, talking about international cooperation, working with countries like Iraq, seizing assets and signing return agreements. It sounded impressive until you stopped to ask a simple question. What arrests? No details, no dates, no coverage. For something labelled high-profile, there's been zero public record. No press releases, no media stories, nothing from the Home Office. It was as if these so-called arrests only existed in his imagination. And that's when the backlash began. Viewers started connecting the dots. Starmer made a massive claim on national television, but couldn't back it up, not even with a single verifiable fact. And when you think about how serious the issue of illegal immigration is, this wasn't just an exaggeration, it looked like he made it up. All of it. This wasn't just a random slip.
Lots of talks about these return hubs, offshore processing possibly in Albania. What's your plans there? Is that part of your talks here in Albania?
Well, it's very important that we bear down on irregular migration, unlawful migration. We've already taken effective action on arrests and seizure of assets across the globe, high-level arrests. We've already got many agreements in place now with other countries for cooperating on law enforcement. You saw some of that here in Albania this morning. UK forces alongside Albanian forces. What now we want to do, and we're having discussions on, talks on, is return hubs, which is where someone's been through the system in the UK, they need to be returned, and we have to make sure they're returned effectively, and we'll do that if we can through return hubs. So that's what the talk's about. I would say in this area, no single measure is going to be the measure that is, if you like, a silver bullet. By putting it all together, arrests, seizures, agreements with other countries, returning people who shouldn't be here, and return hubs, if we can, through these talks, to add to our armoury, will allow us to bear down on this vile trade and to make sure that we stop those people crossing the channel.
To nerve, because it's about trust. Immigration is one of the most debated issues in the UK right now. People want answers, they want action. And when a Prime Minister goes on national television and invents progress that doesn't exist, it tells the public one thing loud and clear: you're being played. Starmer's trying to reposition himself. After years of defending open border policies, he suddenly wants to look tough. claiming he's cracking down on small boat crossings and smashing smuggling networks. But if your proof is a made-up success story, how real is the rest of your plan? This lie matters because it shows how far some politicians will go to sell an image, especially when they know the truth won't win votes. And the worst part? He probably thought no one would call him out. But people are watching now.
True for the security of our borders. Illegal migration is a massive driver of global insecurity. It undermines our ability to control who comes here. And that makes people angry. It makes me angry, frankly. Because it's unfair on ordinary working people who pay the price. From the cost of hotels to our public services struggling under the strain. And it's unfair on the illegal migrants themselves. Because these are vulnerable people being ruthlessly exploited by vile gangs. So look, we must each take decisive action in our own countries to deal with them. Nobody can doubt that the people we serve want this issue sorted. But the truth is, we can only smash these gangs once and for all if we work together. Because this evil trade, it exploits the cracks between our institutions. It pits nations against one another. It profits from our inability at the political level.
And they're not forgetting. It's almost surreal watching Keir Starmer talk tough on immigration, because just a few years ago he was saying the exact opposite. This is the same man who voted against stricter immigration controls. The same man who called the Rwanda plan unworkable and immoral. The same man who stood in Parliament and promised to protect free movement even after Brexit. Out suddenly, he wants to be the face of border enforcement? That's not leadership. That's political theatre. And the public remembers. They've seen the speeches, the interviews, the voting record. No matter how much he tries to rebrand himself, the past doesn't go away, especially not when it's recorded, archived, and one Google searchable.
The Independent Office of National Statistics has conducted vital work on the state of immigration and found the previous government were running an open borders experiment. As the ONS sets out, nearly 1 million people came to Britain in the year ending June 2023. That is 4 times the migration levels compared with 2019. Time and again, the Conservative Party promised they would get the numbers down. Time and again, they failed. And now the chorus of excuses has begun. We heard that from the leader of the opposition yesterday. But what we didn't hear, what the British people are owed, is an explanation. Because a failure on this scale isn't just bad luck, it isn't a global trend or taking your eye off the ball. No, this is a different order of failure. This happened by design, not accident. Policies were reformed deliberately to liberalise immigration. Brexit was used for that purpose, to turn Britain into a one-nation experiment in open borders. Global Britain. Remember that slogan? That is what they meant. A policy with no support, of which they then pretended wasn't happening. And now they want to wave it away with a simple, we got it wrong. Well, that's unforgivable. And mark my words, this government will
away. So when he claims to be cracking down on illegal immigration, people aren't just skeptical, they're insulted. It's not that voters don't want solutions, it's that they're tired of being lied to by people who think short-term PR matters more than long-term credibility. As soon as the interview aired, the reaction was instant and brutal. Social media lit up with clips of Starmer's claim, followed by people demanding evidence. Journalists couldn't find a single official record of these so-called high-profile arrests. Fact-checkers started digging. Even political commentators, some usually sympathetic to Labour, raised eyebrows. And ordinary viewers, they were furious. Not just because of the lie, but because it was delivered so casually. Like, it didn't matter. Like no one would question it. Some called it gaslighting, others called it desperation, but nearly everyone agreed on one thing. This wasn't the confident leadership Starmer wanted to project. It was sloppy, dishonest, and insulting to anyone who's been paying attention to the immigration.
And everyone knows what it meant on immigration, or at least that's what people thought. Because what followed from the previous government, starting with the people who used that slogan, was the complete opposite. Between 2019 and 2023, even as they were going round our country, telling people with a straight face that they would get immigration down, net migration quadrupled until in 2023 it reached nearly 1 million. That's about the population of Birmingham, our second largest city. That's not control, it's chaos. And look, they must answer for themselves. But I don't think that you can do something like that by accident. It was a choice made even as they told you, told the country, they were doing the opposite. A one-nation experiment in open borders, conducted on a country that voted for control. Well, no more. Today, this Labour government is shutting down the lab. The experiment is over. We will deliver what you've asked for time and again, and we will take back control of our borders. And let me tell you why. Because I know, on a day like today, people who like politics will try to make this all about politics, about this or that strategy, targeting these voters, responding to that party. No, I'm doing this because it is right, because it is fair, and because it is what I believe in.
Debate over the past decade. It's one thing to change your mind. It's another to pretend you were always on the right side and expect everyone else to play along. And this time, they didn't. What makes this worse is how quietly the mainstream media let it slide. No follow-up questions in the interview, no headlines calling it out, no BBC host challenging the claim in real time, even though any journalist with a laptop could have fact-checked it in seconds. It was just allowed.
It has found that across the country, 43% of people asked thought that immigration has a negative impact on British society. That's compared to 35% here who say it has a positive impact. So clear difference there. And there are also clear differences between age groups. 54% of 18 to 24-year-olds thinks that immigration has a positive effect. But the older you get, the lower this number comes down. When you get to 65 and over, only 20% of those people thought immigration is good for society. And the results vary according to location. Actually, it's only in London and in Scotland that people were more likely to say that immigration has a positive impact. So the lighter the colour here, the less supportive people are of immigration. You can see that band here, Northern Ireland not included in this survey. But the poll also revealed deep political distrust among the public. 52% of people said they think Labour aren't telling the truth about what they really think about immigration. Not much better for the Conservatives, only 49% here, so not a big difference, saying the same thing about them. The Lib Dems doing slightly better, maybe they spelled it out better. But
pass. And that's part of the frustration. When leaders make things up and the press doesn't push back, it sends a message. You can say whatever you want and no one's going to hold you to it. That silence gives cover to lies. It protects power instead of questioning it. And when public trust in media is already on thin ice.
Now, in a diverse nation like ours, and I celebrate that, these rules become even more important. Without them, we risk becoming an island of strangers, not a nation that walks forward together. So when you have an immigration system that seems almost designed to permit abuse, that encourages some businesses to bring in lower paid workers rather than invest in our young people, or simply one that is sold by politicians to the British people on an entirely false premise, then you're not championing growth. You're not championing justice, or however else people defend the status quo. You're actually contributing to the forces that are slowly pulling our country apart. So yes, I believe in this. I believe we need to reduce immigration significantly.
This kind of passivity only makes it worse. People aren't just angry at Starmer, they're angry at the system that lets this kind of thing slide without consequence. Political gaffes come and go, but this one might linger, because it hits at something deeper than a policy dispute. It's about honesty, accountability, and whether the country can trust the man who wants to lead it. Starmer's team probably hoped this BBC interview would be a turning point, a strong media moment to show he's in control. But instead, it showed the opposite. He made a claim, couldn't back it up, and got caught. Not by some political opponent, but by the public itself. And that's...
Do you think we live in an island of strangers?
I think our country has benefited over very many years through generations from people coming to the UK, being part of our communities and working in our public services. But I also think that the level of migration needs to be controlled and managed, and it needs to come down.
So we are living in partial island of strangers then?
Well, I think that we're a country that I think has a really strong country.
Are we or are we not an island of strangers, do you think?
No, I think we're a country where everybody, I think, wants to see a strong country where we train people in the UK, but also to see net migration come down.
The part they can't spin away, because once voters feel like you've lied to them, it's hard to win them back, especially when the topic is something as serious and as personal as the country's borders. This wasn't just a lie, it was a test, and Starmer failed it. If this is what Starmer says on live TV, imagine what's happening behind closed doors. Voters are watching now, and they won't forget. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments, do you think Starmer's lie was deliberate or just careless?